Hi everyone, it's Chelsea again, and today I'm going to show you some little tips and tricks about sewing, specifically some basic stitches, how to thread a needle, and even how to sew a button. Now, the reason I'm going to be showing you this is that with all the free time we have, I've seen a lot more people learning to sew their own masks or making clothing items or maybe doing some fittings because maybe their certain clothes don't fit them anymore for whatever reason, or they're taking some of their winter items and making them into summer items. Now, sewing is such a great tool for you to have for, one, again, sewing buttons, or maybe you tore something on your shirt while walking somewhere, any little thing. Sewing is such a great skill to have, even if it's just simple hand stitching. So, I'm going to first show you how to sew some basic stitches, but let me tell you what materials we need. Now, what we're going to need today is, for one, a pair of scissors. I have two pairs here, and you're going to see why they're so different in a little bit when I tell you. One is fabric, and one is, well, my crafting scissors. Can you tell which one's which? We also have our scrap fabric here that we're going to be testing our stitches and our scissors on. And we have our little sewing kit. This is one I got from my local dollar store, and we're going to open it right now and see what comes inside. Let me first adjust the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. My little hands and the kit. So, first thing, this is, I don't know the exact name of this, but this is what you use to thread your needle. I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but there's a little piece of wire in here that allows you to stick it through the needle and thread your needle easily. So we're going to put that down. A little paper ruler here that allows you, well, measuring tape per se. Has all the measurements you need on one side, but this can rip very easily. If you drip any water on it or anything, it will deteriorate very, very fast. But it is good in a pinch if you need one. I currently have one of these plasticky fabric ones around my neck that allow me to just quickly measure what I need when I need it right quick. So I'd recommend getting one of those if you can. If you can't, once again, this will do in a pinch. Now, in our kit, we also have a bunch of thread. Put them in a color order that I enjoy. There is no orange in this pack or purple. But that is okay because we're not going to be using those colors today. So we have red, yellow, green, blue, brown, black, gray, and white. I'm going to move these to the side for now. It also comes with this little itty bitty plasticky box of buttons. You have buttons and safety pins and a couple straight pins in here. Now, we also have a teeny pair of scissors. They are not the sharpest, but they can be used for cutting your thread if, once again, in a pinch. We have a thimble here, which is used to protect your fingers or thumb from being, well, stabbed with either a safety pin or one of the sewing needles. This is a plastic one, though, so this will protect you to a certain extent. Do not expect this to be as great as one of the metal thimbles that you can get in more expensive kits or buying them separately. I have in the past, when I was younger, actually stabbed my finger with a sewing needle. Not to the point where I was really harmed, but I did definitely feel it poke through. So now, once again, be very careful if you're using a plastic one. Now we also have a whole bunch of sewing needles that come in this wonderful little kit. They're all the same, they're all about the same size in terms of their width, length. They're different, but all the holes that you're going to thread through are the same. They're meant for these threads that come with the kit. Let's put that down. We're going to move the little box it came with to the side because we no longer need that. Now let's see what we're going to do next is. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to show you is the difference between these two scissors. I told you that one of them is my craft scissors and one of them is my sewing or fabric scissors. Now they are exactly the same brand, same make, different models per se, only because of the different colorings. Now, you can tell the difference between these by specifically the sound they make. So listen when I open this one up. Okay, and now listen to this one. That's a sharper sound, right? These are my craft scissors and these are my fabric scissors. The reason that these are specifically fabric scissors are they cut fabric much cleaner and much nicer than these would. You never want to use your fabric scissors on anything other than fabric because it dulls the blade and gives you choppier cuts, which I'm now about to demonstrate on a piece of my scrap fabric here. Now, we have this nice line here, right? I'm going to cut right along it with my craft scissors first. Just going to do a quick cut, show you guys. See, it's not even cutting that nicely. It took me a second try to do it, but I'm not even sure if this will show up on camera, but if you can see, it's a little more choppier. It's not a straight line. There's pieces of thread hanging out, and it took me a second try to even cut it. Now I'm going to try on the same edge with the fabric scissors. Now, see how nice and smooth that was? Cut much cleaner, cut the first time, and if you just look at the difference in the cuts, this one is much nicer than this one, and it even felt better to cut with. I didn't use as much pressure in my hand to get through the fabric. So it's always a good investment to have a pair of fabric scissors other than your everyday household scissors. Once again, I got both of these in different parts of time from a dollar store. So they were $1 each, and they both work for what they needed for. So I'm going to put these to the side because I'm not going to need them right now. These I'm going to put just a little bit further, but not as far away. Now, next, I'm going to show you how to thread a needle. So we're going to open our handy dandy little needle holder here. Remove the tape that's holding it in place. Fold that, throw that in the garbage can. Now, on the needle, I guess holder, there's a little hole here that you can get your needles out of when we spin it to the right side. I'm going to spin this way. It spins one way or the other. You just got to find out which way yours spins. Mine is spinning this way. So that little hole we had before is what now it's lined up with one of the channels that have the needles in it. And now we're going to just dump this until we get a single needle. But don't forget to reclose this because you don't want all your needles spilling everywhere. So now this is all closed. I have no needles spilling out. Put that down. Now the string or the thread that I'm going to use is black so you could see much easier. So we're going to grab a decent amount. I'm going to say about the length of my arm just for showing you guys. Just measure it out against my arm. Maybe even a little longer because I want to have a little excess for reasons. So now we're going to just cut. We're going to grab our needle, Watch yourself so you don't actually poke your finger. We're going to take our needle threader here and put the little piece through the needle hole. You might have to pinch it at the diamond shape. You might have to pinch it a little bit so it can get through that first hole of the needle. See? And now I have that through the needle hole. So now we're going to take our thread, put it through that diamond shape, just enough so it comes through. We're now going to hold on to the needle. We want enough of the thread coming out so it doesn't immediately get pulled out when we pull this through. So now we're going to take our metal thing, hold on to the needle, and pull it back out. And as we do, our thread will come through. See? Ta-da! And now our needle has been threaded. I'll put that down. Don't need this right now anymore. So, we're just going to put it to the side. We don't need the needle threader once our needle has been threaded. What we're going to do now is ensure our thread doesn't get a knot in it, which can happen. If so, do your best to unknot it before it comes into a tight little knot. You're going to make your edges meet up as close to them as you can. Or we're just going to tie a knot. So the way to tie a knot is hold the two edges between your thumb and your pointer finger. Use your pinky to grab onto the rest of the thread. Pulling that. So now you have a loop between your thumb and pointer finger and your pinky. Put your two fingers in that hole. Twist it. Put your thumb through. Grab the thread that was between your other pointer and thumb, and then you're just going to tighten that knot. Tie it, pull it nice and tight. We have one knot. I like double knots because I think they're much stronger than the single knot, and you might have to create a bigger knot depending on the weave of the fabric. The weave of the fabric means how close of the threads that make up your fabric are together. The looser the weave, the bigger the knot. You want to tie this knot on top of itself. Let's do that one more. Do that again in front of you. Grab your two threads. Use your pinky to create the little loop. Two fingers. And pull it through. You can move the knot or adjust the loop by holding onto the bottom of the string and pushing with your thumb and pointer finger till it's where you need it to be. So now we have a nice little knot, and now your needle should, if not, guide it yourself down to the middle of where your two threads of your two threads of that knot. So now your needle is officially threaded, and now you can begin sewing whatever you want. Whenever you want. We're going to put that to the side. Now we're going to go back to our scrap fabric. We just cut a bunch of little strips in it. So let's sew it back together. I'm going to take one little piece here actually off because I want this to be easier for you to be able to see and not have pieces flopping everywhere. Once again, see how easy that was? How nice and simple it cut. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a running stitch. A running stitch is what it sounds like. You're going to this is the bottom of our fabric. We're going to take that, put our needle through it all the way, and pull, Now our knot's on the bottom. This is coming through. So what a running stitch is that you're going to push your needle part way through the fabric, down, and push the rest of it out like that. So a little bit of it is in between the needle here. So we're going to take that and we're going to pull it through. See, now we have one line there. Okay, now we're going to take this again and we're going to push down into our fabric and up through the other side where it's in between. So you're like pinching your fabric and pushing it through. We're going to pull our needle through again. And voila. We're going to do that a few more times so you can see what the running stitch looks like. Down through. This is the basic running stitch. Another one that is not as secure of a stitch as this one is a quicker method where you go down, down, through, down, through a few of them and pulling it. It's a faster stitching method, but is not as tight as the basic running stitch. See? Okay. So now we're going to tie this off. The easiest way to tie off a stitch, in my opinion, is by doing something like we just did. You push down a little bit. You don't want to create the biggest stitch. Just a little and a little. So it's only a teeny piece of fabric that's on your thread. Grab the end of the thread, the part that's connected to the needle, wrap it around the tip of the needle, and then pull the needle through. This is creating a small knot. Do this one more time in a similar-ish spot of it. Take the bottom of the thread, wrap it around the tip of the needle, pull it through, and done. I also, because I want to ensure this doesn't come undone, take the needle. We're going to just make another knot. Grab the thread with your hand, your fingers. Make sure there's some slack of it between the fabric and the rest of your fingers. Twist, and then you're just going to put your needle through that loop. And you're just going to tie the knot down to the fabric. Pushing that knot down, and voila. Cut off enough. You don't want to cut down to the knot because then you're leaving space for it to accidentally become unraveled. You want to leave just a little bit of a tail. This is going to be on the inside, so you'll be fine. And we have a nice stitch. Okay? So I'm going to retie this knot. So we're going to use this again. We're going to do what's called the back stitch. Now the back stitch is very, very simple and a very strong stitch. So we're going to take our thread, push it through the bottom of our fabric. Depending on how far you want your stitches, you're just going to put that needle through as long as that. It's going to go down through the fabric. So all you've done is make the one line. Now, you're going to go flip your fabric over slightly. Go over about the same amount you did on the other side. Push it up and through. Now instead, you would think we would go back over here and create another stitch that same length. We're not. This is called a back stitch. So we're going to go back, put our needle through the top of that other stitch and pull it through. Flipping it over so we can see. This is now the back, and this is the top of the other one. We want to go about the same length of this away from the top of this piece. So about here, we're going to go through, pull it back up, and again, instead of going up again, we're going to go into the top of that last stitch and pull it through. And up further, and through the stitch. This is a really, really tight stitch, and or really strong stitch, I should say, and should hold up nice and tight when you use it on anything you make. And it makes a really nice, clean, professional looking line here. So we're going to tie this off like we did before. I'm going to flip it over to the back. And just tie this off. Next, I will be showing you something called the catch stitch. So we're going to put our needle through our fabric, as we've done before. Now we're going to go up, but instead of pushing the needle fully through, like we did with the running stitch, we're just going to push a little bit through. So we have a little bit of fabric between the needle there, but it's diagonal away from where we first entered. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, Nico. You are a wonderful cat who knocks over all my things, including my laptop bag. It's okay. So we're going to pull the needle through. Now we have the first cross there. And what we're going to do now I did that wrong. I was distracted by my cat. If you did what I did, try your best to go back through the hole in which you brought your needle through, or you can pull the thread back. I would not recommend this, but if you do not want to cut your thread, just pull your needle back through the hole. This takes some practice to do, which is why this is scrap fabric and not something we are currently making. You always want to practice before you do something. I was paying attention to something else, which you should always be focused on what you're doing when you're doing it so you don't make mistakes. But mistakes can happen. They are natural. Okay, pull that back through. Let me fix this right up and I'll be right back. Just were. Put our needle through. Now instead of pushing down and away from our first thing, we're going to push down and back towards where we just were. So diagonal from where our first stitch was and back towards us. So now we have that. We're going to go down and now away from us through there. And look, we've made a little cross, a little X. Up. You want to go up diagonal across from your first exit hole. Push towards you. Pull it through. Then down and away from you. And look at that. 2 little X's. So you have where you first entered, diagonally across, push the needle through the fabric slightly, back towards you, pull it fully through. Then you're going to go down, push the needle in the fabric, and push it away from you. And now we have a bunch of little crosses. This is a decorative stitch. It is strong, but I would only recommend it if you're trying to decorate something for an event or something. Okay, so these are our stitches. Now I'm going to show you how to sew a button. So let me set that up and I'll be right back. And we're back. Well, at least I am. This was probably a quick second for you. So, we're going to get our button. Thankfully, our little kit came with some. And we're going to place it where we want it. We're going to push our needle up through the back so it comes through one of the holes. Push it through. So you can either go around each hole in like a circular motion. I'm going to go in an X. So now we're going to push our needle through the top. Go to our next one. Pull it through. Down through again. Now we have a little X in our button. So now we're going to go up back through the first hole. And we're going to do this 3 times to make sure the button is very secure. So go through. And down through. Want to make sure this button, because if you're resewing a button onto something, you want to make sure it's super secure so it doesn't come off again. They even sell thicker threads that you can use as well. Some that are waxed or other sorts that allow that are much tougher for certain jobs. So now we're going to push this one through. And see, that's a nice button that's on there. Nice and tight. You want to pull your thread nice and taut every time you do it so you don't have any excess. This is from the tail of our knot, which I should have done something with, but I did not. For whatever reason, I don't know. So, well, nope, this is from a different piece of thread altogether. Well, but how did this get stuck in here? Well, we just pull it out and we'll be good to go. Ta-da! Now it's out of our way. The back doesn't matter how messy it gets. It's not going to be shown. It's going to be on the inside of the shirt or whatever you are sewing back together. So like our other stitches, we're going to just tie a knot by pushing the needle through a piece of the fabric, grabbing our thread, wrapping it around the needle, pulling the needle through. Might need to take a little bit of force to push it through depending on how thick the fabric is or such. Put it through again. Needle, wrap the thread around it, push a little and pull. And then once again, what I like to do is just tie a simple knot. And cut it off. And you're done. You've now sewn a button officially. To even prove it works, I'm just going to cut a teeny bit of fabric right on the side of it. I'm not going to hem this edge or anything. Tip of the scissors always have the least amount of strength in cutting. So now I have this little hole here. We're going to button this button. So put it through. And see? We sew a button. And it works efficiently as a button. Pulling it, pulling it, pulling it. It is not coming off. It is there. It is on there. Ta-da! Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that little tutorial of how to sew a few different basic stitches, as well as how to thread your needle and how to sew a button. Happy sewing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!